going to be so much harder. Hey, everybody. It's
right.
my good friend Rob Harr from Sparkbox.
Greetings, friends.
You know him from different things. Welcome to the second Slack. I can't even say it. This is going to take a long time. Folks, this is the second Slack Overflow Show. And since the first one, there have been 2,196 messages in Slack. And we did not go through all of them. I just want to be honest.
No, that's a lot of messages.
We just went to the ones that we thought were the best. Now, you're probably asking yourself, first of all, why am I watching this? I can't help you with that. That's choice you made.
That's on you, not us.
Choice you made. We are coming to you live from Columbia, South Carolina at SoCo from Mr. Gene Crawford's co-working space where he has graciously left and we were able to hijack this podcasting situation. And we are on a road trip, which we cannot hide.
No, not ever since you posted
because
in
I
Slack.
posted in Slack. So the first thing on Slack Overflow is I'm sorry. Okay.
What are you sorry for? We can't see all of you. We would love to, though, wouldn't we?
So, what's up first?
In one of the various and sundry channels.
From either a human or other life form.
I hope it's a human.
Could be.
Yeah, otherwise we've been infiltrated. Asking about laptops and managing equipment in a remote world.
So we're looking at laptop issues. People claim their laptops aren't working correctly. Battery life sucks.
Battery life, how long they should last, what's a good cycle, and how's that work? And this all gets tied back up into what does IT support look like in a remote world? What do you do with somebody who has equipment problems, internet problems, all of those kinds of things? Like, this gets really, really dicey when you start talking about people's houses and how they're set up. Because if they don't have access, then, you're kind of, they can't do their job, right?
One of the first things that came out was probably need an internal or third-party IT manager. Somebody who can actually go through and help with all that stuff so it's not derailing other folks. Somebody recommending Snipe for asset and license management. What do you think, should the team own their own equipment?
You have to define where that line is. And it's changed. When we had an in-person office, we very much bought most of the equipment, the vast majority of it, to make sure people had what they needed. When we went hybrid, we started providing that equipment to our remote employees so that there was parity between the remote and the on-site. And when we went fully distributed, we decided to flip the whole thing around. We provide laptops now and then give budgets for people to buy their own equipment.
And then also, if you do have somebody that's leaving the team, what happens with that equipment is probably not worth that much. So then it starts to get into a giving the ring back situation. Depending on how they leave, that can really make it difficult. But one thing that came out here that I think is really great is the idea, you have to be using Apple equipment. I'm sure there's some equivalent, but get Apple Care.
Yep.
For each machine, pay for that for the team, even if they buy their own equipment, I guess.
Yep. And
then you've got your IT support.
That helps with some of them.
Will be able to see you in 3 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, totally. Yes. That's absolutely right. They got rid of the preferred partner stuff. They let you cut the front of the line.
I know, it sucks.
The other thing that was in here that I really liked, and we do that, we started this several years ago based on, I forget whose recommendation, somebody in the bureau. They started leasing our equipment.
There you go.
We lease our laptops from Apple, which has fixed all kinds of things, right?
Yep.
We have a determined lease. It's a 3-year lease, so that means machines come in every 3 years.
Yep.
And we don't have laptops piling up.
There you go. Exactly. I don't even want to talk about how many I have just sitting in the office. When you're distributed, it's just going to be difficult, especially once you start getting into like 5 or 6 different time zones, different countries. It's like the shipping part, you got to let them handle that.
The other thing that I would recommend is if you are distributed, is have a couple spares laying around that you can overnight people. Because the cost of them not working will be way more than the cost to overnight and have a couple extra around.
That's like a great point. If somebody can't work, it's going to be a lot cheaper to get them the equipment they need so they can than it is to, first of all, slow down every project that they were on, cause issues with clients, and not be able to bill.
They're still going to want to get paid.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. There's just no money coming in.
Yeah. Next, oh Lord, kickoff calls. Heated discussion about what to include in your kickoff call and what it looks like once an agreement is signed. I will say we always had a call before the agreement was signed, which we called the chemistry call, just so we could see if we liked each other. If you need that project to come in because you're running low on cash or whatever, that's a whole different situation you got to figure out. We were generally doing fine in terms of money. We didn't have to worry as much about getting something through. So we could take the time when we were onboarding, and it also helped us kind of bridge if we need a little more time for the project before we could build that gap in. In terms of the kickoff call, I really liked what Kevin Hoffman always had with the what are we going to do to screw this up question.
Yep.
And then we would always tell them what we thought they were going to do to screw it up. And it's great because if you ask a client, what's your biggest fear about working with us? And they say, we think you're going to go dark on us, then you know ahead of time, okay, just make sure you really are in that weekly communication. You are letting them know what's happening. And always be honest with them what you think, which is going to be you're going to pay late, you're going to go dark on us when we need an agreement, or you're going to suddenly change, or there's somebody new's going to come in. The person who asked the question, these are the expectations they had. A high-level celebration of a new project starting.
Yep.
What is that? What is a high-level celebration?
Recognizing the fact that usually that is the high point in the project, right? Like the only thing, the things that happen after that, usually excitement goes down.
No, that's totally true.
So let's capitalize and make sure that we're staying like, hey, we're really excited to work together. We're excited to be here, and make sure you capture that moment. Everybody feels good about it, because most of the time that's, as good as everybody's going to feel.
Yep.
Right? They just made all the decisions.
They're talking about introducing the project to the working team.
Yep.
We would have done that before the kickoff.
Yeah. The thing I like about this conversation and what's going on in Slack here is they're being really explicit about what it is and what it isn't. Right. Because those handoffs between biz dev and the delivery team are often some of the riskiest, right? They've not been involved to this point, but the client expects that they are going to still be involved and doesn't think that they're changing departments. But in a lot of our studios, they are.
Right.
So we have to be really intentional and implicit about what we're trying to achieve and bring everybody up to speed so that the client doesn't feel those bumps. There is some changing of hands and, some different people or different concerns, right?
Yep.
Like, the biz dev people on our teams are usually really good at seeing the future and saying, like, this is what I want. This is what we need to get. Let's get this agreement signed. They've hit their end.
Yeah.
Right? And the delivery team is just starting.
Yep.
And they want to make sure they know what it's going to take to actually end well with that client. That's their horizon.
I love looking at this, the idea of doing an onboarding call and then a kickoff meeting. The onboarding call, the intro to the account team, the project timeline high levels, intro to the tools that are going to be used, review of access needed to start research, communication expectations, qualities of a successful partnership. Now, I think the qualities of a successful partnership can be another way of looking at the what are we going to do to screw this up, right? It's like, it's just repositioning that. But then the kickoff meeting and wayfinding workshop, the way that's laid out here, an intense dive into what we know already.
Yeah.
The brand, the research, audience. And this is saying 4 hours, sometimes 6 to 8 in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And then again, the review of the scope and expectations and the agreement around next steps. Now, I like this idea of doing 2, and I think a lot of other people in this conversation were saying something similar, because they are talking about sharing scope before you have the kickoff.
It depends on how your agreements get signed, right? We would always develop our scope during our workshop and kickoff pieces. Because that's when we finally have the right people in the room. We've agreed on the way to work together, and then it's actually time to get down to refining that scope, or at least what we're going to tackle first.
You can also find out all the dates that aren't going to work, all the things that are going to happen in the future, so you can get ahead of them.
Yep.
Not all the things in the future. I mean, that would be
amazing, wouldn't it?
That would be fortune telling.
Yeah. I could charge a lot more if I knew all the things in the future.
I could fortune tell the way we were going to mess up a project almost every time.
The thing that I think that finally gets wrapped up in here is about setting expectations well.
Yes.
Because this is our last chance to set expectations well. Remember, expectation setting starts way back in biz dev and continues all the way through kickoff.
Yep.
At this point forward, it's just managing the things. So if we don't have our expectations and know what everybody's want to do and what people expect, then we're usually doomed to fail.
It's back to bad communication, people not understanding things, filling in the blanks themselves.
Clarity is kindness, right?
It is. So this one is very timely and definitely hits something that I just went through. And this is all about, as a remote team, how do you handle it when part of your team is under duress? Mm-hmm. In this situation, it was all about Hurricane Ian, and some of the team was in Florida and couldn't work.
Yeah.
And so another part of the team kind of needed to pick up the slack, but that's not really fair, kind of the way it was positioned, kind of the way it was asked. And that's difficult, right? I mean, if you do have part of the team that's going to have to work longer hours, another part of the team that is obviously not having fun.
Yep.
I mean, they're not out there just, lollygagging. I always felt that the team that's not under duress wants to help.
Yeah.
They feel good about helping. And actually, you can get into a negative situation if you try to give them something for that.
Yeah. Everybody is going to go through something in their life.
Yeah.
And, like there's not hurricanes where I live in Ohio, but there's tornadoes. And if something got impacted, we'd want to be kind to whoever was going through something. And it's not just natural disasters, right? Like It's all kinds of things that life throws at us. I think that if we have the right people and the right culture that are committed to helping each other, right, then we do better.
Yeah. It's also part of being a team, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I had never even heard of before was this idea of a force majeure leave guide. How does it work if somebody has an act of nature, an act of God, or however you want to look at it, where they cannot be there? That's a process.
Yeah.
To your point earlier, we're talking about it, it's like, well, you have to have a process for that. Unfortunately, the way the world's going right now, I think we might need to think about having a process for that.
I think this comes back to like the rest of, remember that whenever you make a decision, whenever you do something to help somebody out or choose not to, or whatever the case may be, the rest of your team is watching.
Yeah.
And they are watching because they can imagine what will happen to them if they're in the same situation.
That is exactly right. And it's not just with that, right? It's with everything that happens.
Yeah.
If somebody gets fired, if whatever, like
somebody
how
gives
is that
notice.
handled it? If somebody gives notice, like, and you and I were always of the same kind of mentality about that. It's like you have to celebrate when people leave, and you just have to make sure it's for good reasons. So anyway, back to this. If part of the team's under duress, celebrate the success of the team that's not for stepping up.
Yep.
Maybe do like some additional paid time off or something like that. But in my opinion, they really just want to know they helped, and that's the reward.
Yeah.
They were able to come in and be the heroes.
Yeah.
And help their team that was suffering.
That appreciation is so important. That acknowledgement and appreciation, saying thank you is, like those are opportunities for team bonding and culture to be created if we let them be.
Absolutely. And I think we'll let this one be the one to wrap it up, which is all around when you have to fire someone that is client facing. Mm-hmm. I've been through this. You've been through this. I think you have to be honest, right? You just have to contact that client and say, hey, we've had a situation. We're going through a change. Here's why. I would never throw that individual under the bus.
Nope.
That you just let go. But you also have to be honest at a point of saying, we were in a situation where the work wasn't coming together correctly.
Yeah.
The team wasn't able to function properly. And we realized that the person that we did let go, who you are familiar with, wasn't going to be part of the solution as we move forward. And even saying it just now, it feels complicated. Because it is.
It is really complicated.
It's hard.
There's an implied risk here on what if that client really liked that person
That's
and
true.
didn't see it, right?
Yeah,
it's really, really easy and not that bad if that they see it and they understand, right?
Yeah.
It's the implied like, oh, they're going to be upset because we took away something, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it gets, I think, to another level, and you have to be really careful about what that transition looks like. And you have to know that they're going to have questions if they really like that person.
Oh, yeah.
And you
better have thought about the answers.
And what that looks like.
We had a situation with somebody on the team who the client hired us because of that person.
Yeah.
They had seen work they had done in another setting, another company. They wanted that kind of work, and that was the person we were letting go. The client knows. They sense it, they feel it, and they'll see some of the same issues that you see.
That's right.
So to your point, yes, there are going to be times where maybe the client doesn't see that, and they do have a relationship with that person.
Yep.
Now the other one that I would say is really hard in this is when you are transitioning that person's credentials into all of your systems, right? Because let's say that the client is in Slack.
Yep.
And then suddenly that person's not. Let's say that they email and suddenly it goes to somebody else. How do you handle that? Because I think this is a timing situation.
Oh, it's a timing situation.
Always. You have to make sure you're in touch with the client before the cutoff. But you also have to talk to the person in the team before you talk to the client.
Do. And it's a
oh my God, it's
so hard. It has
so
to be
hard.
very well orchestrated, right?
Yeah.
And there is some situations that I've been in, I'm sure you have too, where the client and that person who was let go are going to be in communication.
Oh,
they might
yeah.
have text numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I just assume they're talking.
I saw Jack Welch talk once, and somebody asked him about letting people go, and he said, "Look, be honest, because people will know if you're lying.
Yeah.
And if you say, you know what, we let Mary go because she wasn't able to keep up with the workload, and we feel that it was a reasonable workload, everybody there already knows if Mary was running behind on everything.
Yep.
You know, that's not a surprise to them. But if you say went on to new endeavors,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
Yep.
And people will know it. Clients will know it. But yeah, so timing, really important on that one.
You know, you may, lose a client over that. Like
You could.
It's possible. Like I don't remember a time when it's happened to us, but it seems pretty reasonable.
Rob, I mean, we've got more stuff here.
There's always more.
There's always more, but that's what the next episode of the Slack Overflow Show will be all about.
All right. Thank
Thank you
sir.
for being on the Slack Overflow Show, which also happens to be SOS, in case you didn't notice. All right. Thanks, everybody.